For me, gender communication can be defined in a positive light or in a negative light. Positively, gender communication is a fluent, constructive conversation between a man and a woman that can be utilized in a way that will create progress for every setting, business or personal, for a better tomorrow between genders.
Gender communication is the communication between both opposite sexes, just kind of how you talk to each other.
I think gender communication is, just communication between genders and really trying to understand the other point of view, I suppose, and kind of where they're coming from, as with any communication between any people. You just gotta try and see their side of the story and communicate that way.
Okay, so to me, gender communication, so I actually got my bachelor's degree in communication, so like I have a little bit of background on it. So to me, gender communication is how you work to communicate between all the different genders that exist in the world. So how you target a message to either women versus how you target a message to men, how companies might interact with women versus men, versus a trans individual versus somebody who's non-binary, and how management may shape or communicate differently between all of those genders as well. So
I think kind of gender communication, it starts out with, there's obviously a difference in between the sexes in a very traditional societal kind of sense, and I remember seeing this comedy special the other night, and they talk about how men-women relationships are so particularly interesting, because it's like when a man dates a man or a woman dates a woman, I mean, they're just sharing like similar experiences that they've already had for the most part, whereas when you have like a man and a woman together, like they're learning so much more about the other gender that they might not have known before. And so I think it's kind of valuable to have gender communication in the definition of that you're sharing your experiences from your perspective towards the other sex in hopes to gain awareness, like effective awareness, that they will possibly help ease certain things that might be harder on one gender versus the other, or come to realize that certain like actions that they have taken before in the past may not have always been the best for the other gender. So I think it's just a gender communication is being aware of both sides of the story and being able to feel like you're open and willing to communicate about those differences that you have in order to make it a little bit better.
I think in terms of getting paid for doing stuff at home, it depends on what it is exactly that you're doing, because the money would need to be federal money or government money from the state. So I think if they have a job and the husband is also helping with family stuff around the house, no, she should not get paid. But a single mother that needs to help her children, yes, she should.
No, I don't think that you should be paid to do your own work. You made a choice in life to have a child or to have a house to clean. That's just your responsibilities as a human. So
I don't think women should be paid for that. I don't really want to say it's your job. Like, you should share some of that with your husband.
So I don't necessarily know if women should be paid extra for it. I think that in my eyes, if there is a partner in the home, either another man or a woman, they should be doing equal amounts of work. So there should be like some sort of equality in definitely in pay in the workplace, for sure, like please equal pay for women, but there should also be that sort of equality at home so that women aren't having to do all of the extra work. I know that's just what our society has kind of fallen into, is that women have to do all this extra work and do, and in a lot of like cultures and a lot of places, like that's just the norm, is that the women do the extra work. So in my eyes, there should be that balance of like both both partners are equally taking care of the kids, equally taking care of the house. So if that, in the ideal society, if that ended up happening, I'm not quite sure you would need the extra pay. In the unideal society, in the society in which we live, I don't think it would be wrong to have extra pay, because that might actually get us equal to the pay of men right now. So.
Okay, so like this is kind of an interesting question in the sense that, like, you know, the fact that women do extra work, you know, outside of their careers, go back home, address familial issues, and have to do their household chores, that is something that, although I do heavily believe in a lot of equal pay opportunities, so on and so forth, what happens at the home is something I think that's a little bit different, in that, like, if we want to actually support gender equality, that we can't be still pushing sometimes for extra pay for women for what they do outside of work, because that doesn't necessarily pertain to what they do inside of work. The real problem that we have right now is not that necessarily always that, you know, a woman and a man are getting paid, you know, like the woman's getting paid less than the man for doing the exact same job. The problem is that women, one, aren't even capable of sometimes getting like these higher paid jobs, that men would usually be more favored likely to get these jobs because they are figured to have more availability, not these extra time constraints that women have. So they miss out on a lot of job opportunities, and they usually end up taking more leave because they're expected to, you know, pick up kids. And so I can understand from like an employer's perspective as to why that could be like a financial constraint as to, like, you know, compensating women sometimes is fairly, like, I can get the logic behind it, but it shouldn't be there. So I believe just between the two as a whole, it should be equal no matter what they're doing outside of work.
I think everybody should work on their gender communication so that in the business place, like I said earlier, or just a personal setting, we can all construct a different way of going about things, and we would see a lot more progress with everything we do.
I think it could kind of be rolled into just any communication class. I think it should be covered a little bit, just so people have a better understanding, but I don't know that you need a whole class.
All right. So I think everybody should study gender communication. I think it's a very important topic because, like I said before in my definition, companies will target ads, marketing will target different genders differently. And so if you are studying gender communication, you can pick up on that and realize, like, oh, this ad is like specifically targeting me and they're gonna upcharge me because I'm a woman. Or like, oh, like this product says it's for men, it's targeted at men, the gender communication is working towards men, but it actually can be used for all genders, not just men. So working on it that way, and really being aware of what's going on in the world within the realm of like gender communication would be really great.
I think it's just really important for not only women to encourage openness just with their own gender, because, you know, you would think a lot of the problem has to do with, you know, men not expressing themselves open and willingly enough, but I think it has to all start somewhere. And if women can encourage, you know, being open in that sense when it comes to gender communication, I think it kind of transfers on towards the other gender and many other genders as well. So I'd say, like, I encourage it by just telling my, you know, friends who, you know, even if it doesn't happen to be like a man, a woman, like if they identify as anything else, it's just asking people to share their experiences. And sometimes you don't have to limit that to just gender, but when you have those conversations about the differences, then I think that just opens up the doors to a lot of meaningful and impactful conversations.